Hello and welcome to episode 49 of Shared Discovery, the show and podcast where we share the most exciting and fun things that we like about games and gaming. I'm your host, Victor, and today I'm once again joined by Ron. Ron, how are you doing?
I'm well, Victor. I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So we are off the back of some D&D episodes, coming back with fun ones. So I thought it would be nice to just kind of chill a little bit. We had some in-depth episodes, some D&D, some research-heavy one with their fun episodes. So we're just going to talk about some things that we like about games. So this is going to be our second Share Our Discoveries episode.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
But before we get into that, what have you been doing lately?
I've been making a effort to touch grass these days.
Okay.
Go outside and see the beautiful world, especially as the weather has been getting better. And I don't know, I've been feeling the call of the wild,
Nice.
man. And also at the same time, trying to finish video games.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of getting things started and then
Guilty gamers.
Yeah.
I'm there too.
Variety is the spice of life.
Don't look at my Steam library.
I'm not ashamed of this.
Yeah. What are you trying to finish?
Yeah, well, so nothing is done until I'm dead, but
Okay.
I'm trying to finish every single Metal Gear Solid game.
Solid. Nice. Okay. That's exciting. That is really exciting. When you said, just to rewind a little bit, to get this joke in there, when you said touch grass, I thought you were going to say Animal Crossing.
That'd be good.
Pulling weeds?
Yeah.
But I don't see you as an Animal Crossing player.
I get too impatient.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is all the game has? This is it? Really?
I have enough capitalism in real life.
Yeah, I just, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, right on, man. That was cool to hit that backlog a little bit. I am guilty of always going back to WoW. I'm on my yearly trek back into WoW.
Your forever game.
It is the forever game. I have a few of those. Terraria, WoW, and RuneScape always drag me back in. There's just infinite things to do in there.
Yeah.
So that has been keeping me busy. I revamped a Magic deck recently.
Good to hear.
It didn't have an identity. It was just a green punch deck. So, been playing Baldur's Gate as well. Looked at the commanders from the Baldur's Gate Magic set and said, okay, what can I do?
Yeah.
So, for those of you who have played, I made a Halsin deck. He is the druid. He's a beefy druid that turns into a bear. And so, his card turns other things into bears.
That's awesome.
So, I got a background with him that makes squirrels. So, in the deck, I make squirrel bears.
Squirrel bears.
Yeah.
The game is ridiculous.
I know, Magic's something else.
Yeah, it really is something else.
And so all we're going to be doing today, we're just going to split up the episode.
Yeah.
Just going to be chatting. I'll take the first half. Do you want to go first?
You feel free. I think I still need a little more time to marinate.
Digest a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. I always need digestion time.
Especially for something as large and like throat blocking as the concept of Metal Gear.
Okay.
What is a Metal Gear?
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
We'll get. I'll go for my big concept first. But before we get into that, just want to remind you all to check us out on Instagram and especially YouTube, because that's where you can watch us play D&D. And next episode 50, we have a special game show episode.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the game show episode quite a bit because, I feel like I put a lot of effort into the Dungeons and Dragons episode, and if we all put a lot of effort into that episode, it's going to be killer.
Oh, yeah.
So fun.
I was just talking to the people in the auditorium at the school here, see if we could do it over there for our special episode. Yeah, sure, they say. So it's going to be a real special episode. So podcast listeners, check that out on YouTube at Shared Discovery. And if you want to email us directly to say, hey, you shared a boring discovery, actually just let Ron talk the whole episode, you can do that at shareddiscoveryshow@gmail.com.
Seriously. I like boring stuff.
But we got to know that, so let us know at that email. And so I think we will just jump right in. No real intro question because we're both just going to be asking each other questions about our topics today. So for me, I wanted to come to you as a budding DM and just pick your brain a little, right?
Oh my God. First, that expression I find gross, but also valid. Go ahead. What do you
We're
got?
digesting you. We're picking your brain.
Oh, gross. All sorts of gross biology going on.
We'll just move past. So, for those of YouTube watchers, you can see I have a lot of Warcraft stuff behind me. And you'll notice that I said at the beginning, top of the hour, that I've been playing WoW recently. And that's because I came up with this harebrained idea of making a Warcraft-themed D&D scenario, right? And so this came out of the idea of wanting to do a very simple D&D campaign.
Okay.
So I saw commoners, a commoner player class, where you gain no health from 1 to 5. You have base 10 stats, so that means you have 60 stat total.
Yeah.
Where the average adventurer has 72, so you're weaker on average. Your health doesn't increase. You have no hit die. You get no special abilities. You're just a person.
So this is a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's World of Warcraft, and it's commoners living in the World of Warcraft world, but Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. When you put it like that, that's overwhelming.
It's a lot.
And I have been overwhelmed. Yeah, I said, well, this will be simple. There's not much in the classes. But what you realize is that since there's not much in the classes, you have to put a lot into the world.
And the adventures, and also probably have a lot of backup characters just in case, especially with the no gaining health thing. And World of Warcraft being an MMO, I imagine there's a lot of threats in the world.
Oh, so many.
Not very friendly to common folk.
No, not at all. And so I guess I'll rewind a little bit to see how I came up with Warcraft. Because, okay, you hear that I have this commoner class. Why Warcraft?
Yeah, serious.
And for me, this actually goes way back to high school. My mom would just buy stuff at garage sales she thought I would like. And she bought me the Rise of the Horde Warcraft book.
Oh.
And it happens to be canonically the first Warcraft story. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
The story that kicked everything off. And I'm like, okay. And I just, I played World of Warcraft since I was young. I was like, I'll read it. And that was the fastest I've read a book. I blew through it. I learned like the origins of literally the dates. So the year 0 in Warcraft is when the Dark Portal was made. And that's what that story tells. It tells like, here's the starting point, right? Here's the Alliance. Here's the Horde. Here's how they fought the first time.
Right.
And so from there, I started reading the books. And that's a book franchise that I've actually read. I think I've read 10 of them.
Wow, I didn't even know there was that many.
Yeah, and that's not even half of them either. So I got more to read, but that's like that lore's always been in my head. I've been playing WoW for longer than I should admit, and so I say, and I think it's fun to just talk to the random NPCs. And so I'm playing WoW, and I say, "What if you are the NPC?" So I came to Savannah, I came to you, and you're like, "That's a good idea." And so I've been working through that, and I'm like, wait, this is a lot. Holy cow, how? And I asked you this question, I'll ask it again. How do you make it engaging for the players when they're commoners, when they're not the adventurers fighting all those threats?
And my answer would be, well, what do commoners do, right? What do they do to have an interesting time, right? What do commoners get up to? And living in a village, there's disease, there's death, there's merchants, there's special times of the year, festivals, there's all sorts of things that commoners get up to. Yeah. And like just going from one town to the next could be a whole adventure for a commoner. Yeah. Is there like, I grew up on this farm. I've never left this farm in my life except to go to the town to sell the goods and come back, right? And so just expanding the horizons of commoner can be exciting. Like, because we're commoners if you think about it,
True.
right? Like, just
Yeah.
going from town to town is cool.
It is. Like,
Right.
I think about that. Yeah, when you put it in those lens, immediately
Mm-hmm.
comes from like living in small Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
And here in Michigan, we grew up in a small town,
Mm-hmm.
and if we'd go 45 minutes to Traverse City,
Yeah.
it's like what an adventure
Serious.
for us
Yeah.
to travel 45 minutes away.
To some medium burg that's
Yeah.
like barely thought about.
We thought
by
it was
anybody.
massive, but it was 40,000 people.
Right? Like when I hear people bring up Grand Traverse Pie Company, I'm like, I cringe a little bit. 'cause, like,
Traverse, no.
I'm from that region, right? You're
People
insulting
say
my
that.
culture.
No, there is one of those in Kalamazoo, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, Traverse.
Traverse, right? No, that's a
Stop.
place. Grand Traverse.
It's like Mackinac.
Yeah. And so, you can get into some of that stuff too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the regionalism and like, what does this
Okay.
region do that this region doesn't?
Yeah.
And there's regional rivalries. I know there's East and West Traverse City that are butting heads, and then Cadillac here like thinks they're a rival to them,
Yeah.
but really, are they?
Are they?
Are they?
Not really.
So we're kind of doxing ourselves a bit in like where we are, but also, I mean, we're in Byron Center TV, so it doesn't really matter.
Whatever. If they wanted to find us, I think hackers could.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I like what you're saying here, that traveling from one city to the next can be a whole adventure, where in D&D as an adventurer, you just shortcut it most of the time.
Fast forward.
You fast forward, you fast travel it, because how many times have the adventurers traveled 60 miles, traveled these large distances?
Right. Because a well-trained, like, veteran warrior, even back in the day, like, you'd go 25 miles a day, like, just cruising across the countryside.
Yeah.
And not a big deal. Whereas a commoner is like, no, I'm going to trundle. I'm going to take my time.
Yeah.
Going to go there. I'm going to stay for a few months to visit my family or whatever. There's no rush.
Yeah.
There's no great impetus,
Yeah.
really, unless we can come up with something, I don't
And
know. Small
rewinding to
mistakes.
what you're
Oh,
saying about the threats in World of Warcraft,
Yes.
in the Warcraft world, the setting that I wanted to choose was the human starting zone, because Stormwind City is the hub in most of the game for the Alliance, and I spent most of my time there. And so I thought, okay, the starting zone, Elwyn Forest, it naturally has a lot of threats to be worried about for commoners that aren't threats for adventurers. Kobolds, murlocs, gnolls. Gnolls are threats for adventurers. Interestingly, I've been doing some backstory. Gnolls almost took Stormwind City. They
Yeah.
were that strong. Spiders, wolves, bears, right?
And there's a story, right? The Knolls almost took Stormwind City, a city of 200,000 people. So there's probably still scars. There's still damage left over in the memories and psyches of the common folk who made it through that, right? So then there's maybe a festival commemorating the victory over the Knolls.
Oh, that's a
and
good
like
idea,
you
yeah.
form a posse and you go hunt the Knoll or something. And like
Yeah.
it's just a kid dressed up in a funny mask. You know, there's a lot of things
Yeah,
you can do.
and there's another threat that comes to mind is there are the Defias Brotherhood. It's just humans that are against Stormwind, because after Stormwind fell during the war, these humans, this artisans guild, were hired to repair Stormwind. They were never paid.
Yeah.
So they're thieves in the region trying to figure out how to get back at Stormwind.
Right.
So, as adventurers in your armor, and, you might be able to afford horses, but you're just geared the heck up. You're not going to be attacked by the average kobold. You're not going to be ambushed as likely to be ambushed by random thieves on the road, muggers.
Exactly.
So that's a good point. I'll have to consider that for sure. It's like, that's risky biz.
And the Defias Brotherhood being artisans, they're probably just a lot of commoners themselves.
True.
And
Yeah.
if they're like insurgent in some ways, then they would have like meetings going around in some towns, and for every combatant in an organization like that, there's probably 9 people scattered throughout villages giving information or like taking them in during the day, treating their wounds and stuff like that, because you don't have like a rebel movement in an area without there being like their families and their
Yeah.
friends, and like this goes deeper than just like some bandits on the road. Like
Sure.
the bandits live somewhere, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a backstory to
Mm-hmm.
them. It's not just guys on the road. And that's the thing. I think that is also hard for me because the couple of times I've DM'd, it's been a 1 or a 2 shot.
Mm-hmm.
And the villains, the baddies, whatever you don't have to think about them.
They're
You don't
cut
have-
and dry.
They're cut and dry. You kill them, you defeat them, you move on. But
Mm-hmm.
these have real stakes to the world.
Yeah, they're a little more gray,
And
I feel like.
they're a lot more gray. And being a commoner, it feels like how you have more time to explore those themes.
Mm-hmm. And like have conversations with these
Yeah.
people. And like, okay, if that was the Artisans Guild, what's the state of the artisans now?
Good point.
You
Yeah.
know, if they're all like turned to enemies and bankrupted by not being paid for their efforts,
Mm-hmm.
like that translates into the economy of the situation too. People are less skilled, less maybe learned in a lot of ways because the artisans took to banditry,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point. Yeah. And then
Brain drain.
and it's really interesting too. So back to playing the game.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for research actually.
Mm-hmm.
So doing something that MMO players don't do and reading the quests.
What? Oh my goodness!
What? Just to understand, what do these people need? What do they feel about the land? And I was talking to this dwarf, and he's like, I don't know what their deal is with the Defias Brotherhood. Who cares if they didn't get paid? We needed their help. It was a time of crisis, right? So there's already some opinions forming about the people
Right.
there.
You should just be happy that you helped
I
out.
should just be happy.
That doesn't put food on the
I
table.
can't eat with that. And so doing some research there, I learned that the Defias, so the kobolds have taken over the gold mine, local gold mine, and the people think that the Defias are working with the kobolds to get their gold, to get paid, right? To have a source of income,
Makes sense.
right? And so I've been having a lot of fun, and it's so different and slow reading the quests, and like there's so much lore. There's all these books, and there's a whole game around it, so let me take my time. My question to you is, how do you not get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of world building that goes into, and the sheer amount of prep that goes into campaigns like this?
How do I not get overwhelmed is probably don't try to remember it all or memorize it all because not all of it is important. Not all of it is going to be important or come up even.
Yeah.
So it's good just to have like some of that stuff as reference material, maybe know where to find it,
Okay.
but not necessarily memorize it, right?
Yeah.
Keep the local knowledge fresh in your head, but everything outside of where the local interest is, like the quests are happening,
Yeah.
unless they're like somehow angling to interfere, I really wouldn't have that on my mind, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a lot of just sort of extra fluff and extra lore that builds it out, but it's really just finding out what's important for the right here, right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's where I'm getting overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's because I'm like, well, I don't know what you're going to do.
There's so much.
There's so much. It's so easy with adventurers to say, carrot on a stick, 3,000 gold if you do this thing,
Yeah.
right? If you and the adventurers are going to take the bait. Like that's super easy because it's like, oh, they get XP, they get loot, they get money, they get renown, all of this. But commoners, they literally can't do that. If they go try to stop the kobolds in the mine, like, what if I sent you to the kobold mine first session? First of all, would a commoner even do it? Second, could you even survive?
And I think a commoner would approach it from a completely different angle.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, because you got to think like a commoner, right? Is like, what are their interests? What do they care about? They care about their family, their community, their local area, like what threats are in the area. If you're sent to deal with a kobold mine, you would probably, use numbers because that's what commoners have on their side is the community, right? They have a large number of people. That's why you see posses being made and like you would either form a posse or try to negotiate with the kobolds in some way, because that's another huge part about the Middle Ages is like community policing. Policing hadn't been invented yet, so how do you deal with bad actors? Is the community would deal with them,
Yeah.
right? So they would come up with jails and stuff, and like then that's how you get people who were just tax collectors, shire reeves, sheriffs, becoming like legal, involved in the legal process.
Okay.
Is because they need like mediators and third parties
Yeah.
sometimes to help out and decide things. Because community is very much more like punishing towards those that hurt the community,
I
but
see.
also very forgiving because we know you. You're part of the community. Whether you did bad or not, you're still one of us.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah, it's like why homelessness was kind of like not a huge problem
Yeah.
in a lot of older civilizations and cities and stuff, is because those tight-knit communities.
Okay.
Because they would just be like, oh, come in, work for me, work with us, and you're just a part of the family now, or we'll work on getting you a home eventually. And towns would trade their troublemakers and stuff till they found somewhere to actually fit in and settle down. And
That's a really cool concept.
because exile was a big punishment for commoners, because you can't just kill somebody.
Yeah.
That's the king's job. The king beheads people, so you send them to the next village. Maybe they fit in.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept, and I think that's a a lens, what a frame of reference I need to get into.
Because the adventurers are
Yeah.
very much like an anarcho-capitalist perspective, like a primitive accumulation. You see it a lot in war with looting, and like sacking cities, and the soldiers' pay was the gold that they stole from cities that they burned along the way, right?
Yeah.
That's where the idea of an adventurer comes from, is they literally existed in history. They called them adventurers.
Yeah.
It would be like the second and third son of a king would go and be like get a bunch of guys, and
Yeah.
they'd go conquer a place and start a new kingdom.
Oh.
And they were called adventurers, and they would come for your crown
Oh, no.
occasionally. Yeah,
Adventures
right?
suck.
Yeah. And that's how like Hungary was created, is a bunch of dudes just showed up and were like, this is our kingdom now.
Okay.
You
This is
can't
ours.
stop us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is ours now.
Wait.
And they did that by looting and pillaging and
Wow.
building up wealth.
Okay.
The primitive accumulation.
Yeah.
So you get that juxtaposition of commoners don't have opportunities of primitive like
And then there's-
accumulation, because it just doesn't make sense in
Yeah.
the world.
And it sounds like too for adventurers, there's less fear, and with less, because there's more power, and with that comes this sense of entitlement to, I have the power to protect you or to take what I want, whatever lens you use. They're entitled to some form of reward, right? And you can make characters that don't care about that, but
Exactly.
generally the adventurer
Right.
mindset is like, I think D&D's designed that way. That's what a game is. Like there's a reward in it somehow. And they're nomads too.
Yep.
So that's very different. Commoners are, I'm here.
Yes.
I have to make the best of what is here. I don't have that ability. And like, it's not linear scaling for the power, but like an average adventurer is like 5 times stronger than a commoner.
Minimum.
Minimum.
And then they start getting money and they become way more powerful.
Yeah, because it's not linear. It's definitely an exponential increase as they get stronger. So that becomes, I think, fear. Well, that's what stood out to me from what you were saying. It's like fear is a huge component of living
Huge.
as
Fear
a
and
commoner.
safety, are
Fear and
way
safety,
bigger
yeah.
for commoners
Yeah.
than for adventurers, because like you said, adventurers are more competent, they're better paid. Like they can take land, they can choose causes or reject causes, they have more freedom.
Yeah.
They're just sort of untethered from society and can, like a captain in the Victorian era, just capture ships and sell them for prize money and get a bunch of money and then just start throwing their power and weight around, right? That's a mid-level character start get strongholds and start making
Yeah.
alliances with kings and kingdoms because they're like adventurers of old.
That's what we're doing in your campaign right now.
exactly.
We're becoming advisors to the druids. So Well, yeah, thanks for asking, answering those questions.
Yeah.
I do actually have something I did discover
Ooh.
about this. So
Ooh.
the place that I like to start is practical.
Mm-hmm.
And what was practical to me is, okay, what is the scale of this world?
How big is it?
How big is it? Because you can probably walk from the bottom to top of the Eastern Kingdoms in WoW in like 30 minutes.
Like in the video game?
In the video game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe like 30 minutes to an hour,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, holy cow. Wow, that's great. How do we figure out that scale? Thankfully, friend Vine came to me. He's like, I found the scaling. They shrunk it down to 1/636th of the size.
Okay.
So we were able to do math. Lots of math. They actually used math in real life. Imagine that, folks.
Weird.
And so ratios and stuff. And so what we did is we walked. So the character we found, they're always jogging, doing a light jog as they go, unless you turn on walk. But did a light jog, and about like 5 miles per hour we estimated. So 5 miles per hour from Goldshire, the small city, to Stormwind, and it was about a minute and 15 seconds. So from there we were able to scale it up, right? So we take that minute 15, and sorry for all the math folks, we'll get into rounds soon, but you take that minute and 15, and unfortunately the 15 seconds, that's not out of 100, so you scale it up to 0.25 right? Fractions, so 1.25, and then you times that by the 636, so you get 700-ish minutes. So it takes 13 hours. 13 hours to jog 5 miles per hour from Goldshire to Stormwind. So if we know it's 5 miles per hour, we can scale that up and it becomes about 60 miles. Right?
That's great.
Isn't that crazy? So we were able to scale the size of Elwyn Forest, and we were able to get that. And so in America, it equates to about the size of Iowa, the state of Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah. And so putting it into those perspectives, because I'm like, I don't know how this works. So it was cool to actually put some math to it. So now if we do get into those travel times, you move from the capital to the city, how long is it going to take a commoner? Now I can have that exact math. Now I can know what it's going to be like in a carriage for you. I know it's going to probably either take all of one day, or it's going to take, probably commoners split it up into two.
Take your time.
Right?
Yeah.
Soldiers could probably get there in an afternoon. They're booking it. Just huffing on a horse. But it was really cool to do that. And that got me some calm of like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. Practically, I know what this world looks like.
Right. And it's got some space, some room to breathe.
It does. It's huge. It's not very settled. It's very interesting. So last thing I will say, and then we'll hop into your discovery, is something that helped me to not get overwhelmed is cheating. Someone else has already done the work.
Oh, that's true about most everything.
Yeah.
I feel like someone's already done the math. Like,
a lot of smart people have already done the work. Yeah. Somebody made a very detailed map of Elwyn Forest. Sweet. Can use that for better scaling. Oh, yeah. And there already exist Warcraft role-playing game books that give the lore for each region. And that's how I got the populations for Stormwind City, which is 200,000. That's how I got the population for Elwind, which is only 10,000 people. And so feel free to cheat.
Seriously.
It's okay to use the resources that are out there for you. So that's what I've been working through recently. I don't know when I'll get there. It's a lot more than I'm used to because I've done a couple on rails one-shots, but I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm interested to see what kind of social power I can gather through the village system. But yeah, that's going to be great.
The thing is, too, is like I got really smart players, so I gotta...
Thank you.
And really smart players, and you and Vaughn and Savannah that'll take advantage if I don't know my stuff. So I'm gonna put in the research for you guys. So, all right, Ron, that's what I got. Making Warcraft into D&D.
I'm excited about it.
What you got for me?
What do I have?
What
for
did you discover recently?
I discovered an obsession for Metal Gear, the video game series. It's like, what? Like 6 or 7 games total. One of them doesn't count. But it started in 83.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. It started in 83. Hideo Kojima, writer and director for it. And it's one of these games. Well, hold on. Let me just read from my notes.
Yeah.
Let me. So Metal Gear Solid, right? Metal Gear. Everybody knows the Metal Gear Solid from like 1999, right? But it started actually
I don't.
way back when.
Listen, you got to treat
83.
me like I know the name.
Right.
I know,
That's it.
I know Snake. He's a cool dude with like bandana bandage thingy.
Yep.
And I know you do stealth in the games.
But what is
it about?
Metal Gear?
Yeah,
So Metal Gear is a tactical espionage stealth game,
Okay.
right?
I got that right.
At times,
Nice.
it can feel more like a movie than an actual game, which, the 4th game in the series is literally 2/3 cinematic.
Oh no.
It's 60% of it is like cinematics.
Good though, like good quality cinematics.
Debatable.
Debatable. Okay.
Graphics are amazing. The plot is what's questionable.
Okay.
Right?
Are they fun?
Yeah.
They look good,
Yeah.
but they're cringe.
It's
Okay.
about the adventures of a world famous spy, warrior, poet, and secret agent codenamed Solid Snake.
Okay.
So there's another thing,
Yeah.
right? Snake.
Yep.
He's a gruff dude. He's based on movies from the early 80s.
I
Escape
can see
from New
that.
York.
Yeah.
The Thing. Specifically Kurt Russell when he was younger.
I can see that totally. Yeah.
And the bandana
It's
and
the
everything.
bandana. It really is. That 80s action hero with the bandana.
And the series heavily leans into that 80s action hero type of vibe.
Yeah.
But then just starts including so much more.
Okay.
That's why it's such a hard game series to talk about, is because it's truly postmodern in that it's about everything.
Okay.
Like, literally, like, it's wacky, it's crazy, it's cyberpunk, it's dystopian, it's political, philosophical. It's a spy game, so everybody's lying to each other all the time. There's espionage, tons of crazy stuff, right? It's about life and fun.
Yeah.
And it's not afraid of bringing, like, crazy, complicated ideas into a video game. Like, there's no hesitation or fear.
Good.
They'll just start talking about, like, philosophy and the meaning of life in the middle of a gun battle.
Okay. Neat.
Incredible, yeah. Metal Gear itself, the name of the game, it's a giant robot.
Okay. That was one of my first questions. Okay. Giant robot.
Right.
Got it.
Metal Gear is a giant robot. And through all of the games, it's more of a metaphor than it is anything else. As a character, Metal Gear barely exists.
Okay.
Even as like a protagonist, or when it's on your side, when it's against you, there's a bunch of different Metal Gears, but they all represent the same thing because they're a metaphor. Giant robot is a metaphor. In Japan,
Whoa. Are we talking about Evangelion or what? What's going on here?
kind of.
Okay.
Because in Evangelion, the mechs represent the same thing. It's nuclear warfare.
Okay.
That's what mecha represent in most of the media. I wouldn't say all the time, but like especially in Metal Gear, because the Metal Gear itself fires nuclear missiles, and it's supposed to be this undetectable mobile nuke launcher. That so it's a metaphor for nuclear warfare, and the games are about disarming this nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
The games are about like anti-nuke, like peace messaging.
Yeah.
But you are also the world's greatest warrior and spy and assassin and like all these crazy contradictory things.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so interesting. off the rails. I guess it's still on, but the mech connection to nuclear warfare, I'm just like making that connection to like Gundams and Code Geass. Didn't one of the mechs in Code Geass actually fire off a nuke? Like that's a whole plot line.
Yeah, as they nuke the capital of Japan. And
Interesting.
And that's a big part of like Japanese media, and is dealing with nukes and nuclear warfare and disarmament, because they're the only country that got nuked twice.
Yeah.
And you can't really escape that. I feel like that's just gonna be in your culture for a while.
And it's interesting how they embedded that into their culture and choose to talk about it.
Yeah, always
It's cool.
indirectly and through metaphor.
Yeah.
Like Godzilla is a metaphor for nukes.
Interesting.
He just shows up, destroys indiscriminately.
Yeah, oh, wow. Yeah, because the metaphor is the indiscriminate destruction and the power. So if you look through the culture, the power that all of these machines, these monsters have. That's
Unstoppable.
Cool. It's unstoppable, yeah. Interesting.
Right.
Very cool.
And a lot of people think like Metal Gear Solid and all the games are about America. And in a way they kind of are. But they're just as much about Japan's relationship with America. And that's where I want to bring up the fact that like a lot of these games are about relationships to things and connections and connecting ideas that you may not think to ever connect, right? And for example, Metal Gear Solid is about like genes and genetics and family and generational warfare.
Yeah.
And these like, okay, if you start messing with the genetics of humans, what does that do, right? The gene soldiers and things, they'll start thinking themselves better than the rest of humanity. It's how it always goes. People decide who's in their group and who's outside of their group based on differences, right? We define ourselves based on what we're not.
So the spies, Solid Snake, they're genetically modified?
Yep. Solid Snake was a clone who was genetically modified to be the best soldier in the world.
Okay.
And that's another part of it, is like you think he's just a normal guy, but he's actually bred to be this way.
Yeah.
And that's revealed throughout the plot, is there's always two sides to everything in the story. There's never just something given to you straight, and then that's the answer.
Okay. So it's a very gray game.
It's a very gray game. People argue about the meaning of everything in them constantly.
Okay.
Every line is like combed over and like, did this guy know about this at this time? And
interesting.
Lots of crazy like Charlie Day with the string board and
it reminds me of that time travel movie Primer that we watched, where there's just so many theories. Okay, what time was he in? Did he know that this was happening? Did he know that he had time travel? So it seems like a very rich franchise, robust franchise.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it went on for how many decades? Like 3-ish decades.
Yeah.
And there's just so much metaphor and culture, and it's not afraid to have fun while at the same time entertaining some of the most dark subject matter ever. It's a very polarizing game. Okay. Sometimes it's not sensitive at all. Yeah. And sometimes it's like, wow, these are the most crazy, cool, inspiring like female characters I've ever seen. But then it goes and like throws that in your face. Oh, no. So it's a game series of like duality, like contradictions, but also like it knows how to deal with that, and it's just so rich in its lore. And if you want, you can go as deep as you want or keep it as shallow as you want. If you're just here for stealth, combat action, they got it.
Don't play the one that is 2/3 a movie.
Don't play 4.
4, okay. Yeah. Don't play 4, because that's just a movie.
That one's for the fans, yeah. Okay. It's just a movie. I think it's like, I looked this up, like GameSpot or some gaming website marks it as on average a 15-hour game. Metal Gear Solid 4 is a 15-hour game.
Not bad.
And then I looked up the compilations of the cutscenes on YouTube. It's 10 hours.
Oh man, that reminds me. So
What is this game?
Yeah, I listened to speedrunning, and they were, like the Final Fantasy is like 9, I think. That era. You can't skip the cutscenes in a certain version. So like it's 9 hours because you just gotta watch a bunch of cutscenes. The gameplay is pretty quick, but you gotta watch cutscenes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like there's literally one spot where you watch a cutscene and then you walk Snake over to a ladder, go down the ladder, down the hallway, like not even 5 minutes, and it hits you with like a 20-minute cutscene right there.
Jeez. I guess if you know what you're signing up for, if you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, those are cutscene simulators. If you like those type of games, sounds like the one for you.
Seriously, it's like Kingdom Hearts, but if the writing was a little more... I don't want to insult Kingdom Hearts, but I don't like Kingdom Hearts.
Me either.
But if you got nothing bad, nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. So I'm just gonna say Metal Gear Solid's got some writing to it, a little more writing,
Adult.
more adult, a little more fleshed out.
Okay.
It's not for kids. I would not advise this for children.
Sure. Good. Good disclaimer.
Yeah, parental advisory. Don't let your kids play this.
Ron. So Metal Gear is everything.
Metal Gear is everything.
There's
like
7 games. It's everything. There's talks about duality and metaphors of nukes and warfare and
A lot of these ideas.
genetics and nature and nurture. It sounds like a little bit with the genetic, like the cloning,
Sins of the father,
lineage.
It talks about memes as like, well, the word meme is a play on the word gene. It's social genes.
Yeah.
And so everything in the series is about control. So you're trying to control the genetics of people. You're trying to control the society of people through memes. And there's a lot of that play. And Hideo Kojima is all about fun. And, as we learned in a previous episode,
it's the most important.
It's the most important thing. Everything is fun, right?
Yeah.
All of culture is like fun and play.
Yeah.
It's play. And Hideo Kojima knows that. He's aware of. That's where I found out about Huizinga's theory of play was from Hideo Kojima dropping hints about it.
Oh, okay.
Everywhere.
Wow.
And I personally blame that right there. It's like he likes fun. He likes playing around. That's why the games are not 100% serious or 100% funny. Or they're a little bit of everything.
He's just having a good time with it. What's interesting to him for whatever game he's making at the time, it sounds like?
Bingo.
Okay.
There's like scenes that don't seem to make sense in the narrative, but then you realize, Mr. and Mrs. Smith came out that year.
Oh.
So he just wanted to have like a enemies to lovers moment, or like a two really competent, sexy people fighting off a horde of enemies. Right? That's literally as far as he thought.
Okay. It's very interesting. So for those people out there like me, just learned all of this.
Yes.
7 games, it's everything. It's very dense. Where do you start this franchise? What do you recommend as a good starting point? Probably not the 87 one, right?
Maybe. If you can get past the graphics, because that's the thing about these games is the gameplay is always fun, no matter what you're doing. Like the sneaking, the action, the like doing tactical stuff is so much fun. Even in the 83 one, they go to a little bit further than you would think with like the stealth mechanics and like using explosives and sneaking around this base. They actually have some of those mechanics that you see in, I can't remember if it was 99 or 2000 when Metal Gear Solid came out, but the 3D Metal Gears, they take their mechanics from the 2D ones.
Okay.
And they just port it into that 3D
That's
environment.
super cool.
Yeah.
I've seen a video for the 3D ones where he actually built a Lego setup to demonstrate to the board or whatever the stealth mechanics, what he had, the plan for the game. Like, man, I used to do that with Legos and stuff too. So that's super interesting. So Metal Gear Solid. The first ones are Metal Gears?
Metal Gear, and I believe it's Metal Gear 2.
Okay.
There's Revenge of Snake in there somewhere, but that one's not canon.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. There's a funny story about it.
It's truly an anime. It has a filler movie.
It has a filler movie.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
let's
this
go.
Fate Stay Apocrypha.
Yo, it's an anime. Yeah.
It's got filler.
I mean, are there flashbacks all the time?
Have you played Metal Gear before?
Yeah. Listen, I just know anime, okay?
It's a stealth adventure anime. Yes.
Let's go.
You nailed it.
Nice.
And I think that's what I was trying to, because anything can happen in an anime.
Yeah.
And these games will be like, this takes place in the 80s, but then you have like a cyborg ninja. Like, what? Okay.
Wait.
And we're taking it
Wait,
seriously.
what's this character's name? The cyborg ninja?
Gray Fox.
I feel like I've seen this somewhere. In a death battle or something? Oh, it's deep memories, man.
Gray Fox. Yeah.
Whoa, okay. That's cool.
Fox
Does he
died.
have a big sword?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he jumps around.
I've seen this guy.
And goes crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like the anime comparison is really apt, though, because you're saying all of these metaphors and the style of storytelling, and it just reminds me of Code Geass so much.
Oh, and the emotions are at 11
Yeah.
the entire time. Everyone's like giving each other looks and like
soap
making
opera
noise.
acting?
So soapy.
Okay.
But it like they're playing it straight. Everyone takes it so seriously that you're like, nah, I'm in. I
don't care.
don't care that there's a man who's named after a cat who meows. He's so evil. Like, I gotta fight him. You know?
Yeah. Okay, so say I want to start at the 1999 one, because I do want to, like, for me and people out there that don't know, like, find a way to enter this franchise if I wanted to.
Where do you start?
Yeah.
Where do you start? Because the story doesn't even.
Because
really
I'm already
start.
overwhelmed.
Because, right? It is very overwhelming. And no matter where you start, I feel like it's going to be a trip. Though.
Okay, well, let's start with this.
Yeah.
Explain to me, like, a level in the game. What is the mechanical mission-to-mission gameplay like? We know stealth, but what does that look like specifically for Metal Gear?
So for Metal Gear, it's you get the mission objective, and then there's a whole cast of characters that you can call and talk to at any time. So we'll take Metal Gear Solid, the opening level. Snake pulls himself out of the water from infiltrating the facility, and he's standing in a warehouse that's being patrolled by a handful of guards. Your objective is to make it into the facility. And so it's very loose in its guidance in that way, but then also you can just call up somebody and they're like, get in the elevator.
Oh, that's a cool way to... That's an interesting way to do tutorials. Interesting. Yeah.
The tutorials will even fourth wall break. The
Yeah.
characters in the game will be like, press the select button to do this now.
Cool.
And they just take it seriously. They play it straight. Everything is played.
That's a really
super
cool
straight.
way to integrate tutorial into gameplay.
And
Super cool.
with that in mind, there's like a meta narrative that's part of that too. In that a lot of the games are theorized to just be simulations of like the world's greatest warrior, and you're just a gamer playing these to train yourself to become like a super soldier to fight in a war.
That's a sweet theory.
Yeah, like there's totally like all these narratives layered on top of each other. So while you're just like sneaking past guards, there's all these like narratives going on. You're calling up different people and they all have these different personalities and character arcs throughout the game that are just communicated to you through like conversation while you're sneaking. And the sneaking is super fun because the guards are kind of smart enough to like they spot your footprints in the snow.
Interesting.
And they're not just gonna like ignore you. They have pretty reasonable sight ranges. They're just as tough as you are. They're super soldiers too in a lot of ways. So
you can't just go aggro approach.
you can't go guns blazing. And
So,
in
like,
some places they deactivate that too.
My closest comparison for a stealth game is Dishonored.
Beautiful.
It's gonna be more difficult, but if you go guns blazing, you can pull it off.
For sure. And you can do that a lot in Metal Gear as well. Sometimes there's a morality system, sometimes there's not. But for the most part, it's left up to you how to deal with situations.
But it's just gonna be easier with the stealth approach, but it sounds like the stealth is fun. So crouch, crawl, and are there like stealth line, like vision lines?
Yeah. Each game does it a little bit differently, but there's always sort of that same thing where the enemy can see in this area over here and they can hear you. And they will look for things that are out of place and report things that are out of place. So if you pick up some ammo, they'll be like, this thing's not here anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know so much about Metal Gear Solid and stuff, but in like the 2D games, but as they go on, it's a little more built out that way.
So really trying to make the AI feel believable.
Yeah.
And challenge. That
challenge
adds like challenge, and it adds, again, like you said, buy-in to this game. Okay, these aren't just NPCs. Like, I'm training here.
Right.
I am Snake. It's an immersion. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Sounds very immersive.
It's very immersive to the point where people got angry at the second game when you weren't allowed to be Snake anymore. Like, it gives you a really juicy first level where you're like, I'm Snake again, and you can get fully immersed, and then it just rips away the protagonist, and you're somebody completely different.
Really, for the rest of the game?
For the rest of the game.
Wow, interesting.
Snake doesn't even show up till the end.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, spoilers.
But spoilers.
Wow.
It's from the early 2005 or something.
There's like statute of limitations or whatever on spoilers.
There really is. Especially Metal Gear, it's like, I'm telling you these things, but it's not really a spoiler because the context isn't there.
I think, the more deep and robust a story, spoilers can only do so much, right? You experience it is still going to be wild.
Yes.
It's still going to have so much weight to it.
Because I feel like Hideo Kojima gets that it's like about the experience.
Yeah.
It's about having fun, whatever that means. And if it means like a cat merchant on a boat is going to show up to your paramilitary force and start buying and selling weapons, then that's what's going to happen.
That sounds fun to me.
And it's very postmodern in that, like, you can have Cyborg Ninja, you can have like Metal Gear, take them seriously, and like all these super anime stuff. Anime is very like, the bomb dropped, nothing really matters, let's have fun.
Yeah. If something that comes to mind is Bayonetta. I've been playing that first one. I know a lot about the games, but I'm playing it for the first time, and I'm still like, what?
Yeah, what?
What is happening? It's still blowing my mind. It's still like so crazy. I'm still having those reactions to it.
Yeah. And Metal Gear is very similar in the same way that it wants you to be immersed and like have fun with it. There's all these super cool characters that you can latch onto and enjoy with their own backstories, and then there's the plot, and there's something for everyone.
Sure. And so, okay, we're crawling through the level. So there are different sound levels between walking, crouching, and crawling, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So really you're controlling your sound. And it sounds like resource management is huge too.
Resource management. You don't even start with a gun in Metal Gear Solid.
Wow, okay.
They tell you right off the bat, you're going to have to find one.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah. So you're going to have to kill a guard. You're going to have to just not use a gun. You're going to have to find one and deal with the consequences.
Yeah, and the guards are super soldiers.
Yeah.
They're elite super soldiers, so you can't even kill them with just your fist.
Really?
Right? The best you can do is knock them out, and then they get up and alert other guards.
Okay.
So it's really like you gotta sneak.
So there's consequences for everything.
Everything.
Wow. Back to that immersion. It's really cool.
I thought so too.
As we wrap up here,
right?
What do you think are the main reasons to play the Metal Gear franchise, Metal Gear Solid franchise?
I think that the reasons to play Metal Gear franchise is they're fun.
Number one,
yeah. They're fun. They got wacky stuff going on. They're just a good time. They may be a little bit stressful, but you got to remember they're games.
Yeah.
And like getting caught and running around and pretending to be a spy is what it's all about. It's like you're a kid again playing cops and robbers, like hide and go seek with your friends. That's how Hideo Kojima came up with the series, was playing hide and go seek with his son.
That's so cool.
It's like, oh, this is what I want the games to be like. And so that's what it is. It's just good fun. And not to mention, how often do you see a game playing with like crazy philosophical ideas and just sort of having fun with them? Like, sure, we can take this stuff seriously, but like, what if there was like super soldiers that were motivated by this philosophy here, you know, and like, you take that seriously. What if that was real? What if the president wanted to use memes to take over the world? That's the plot of one of the games.
That's so cool, because it's like, let's take this concept to the farthest reaches we can take it. Let's just extrapolate on that and see what we come up with.
Like the nuke. Let's take it all the way and see what happens.
That's really fun storytelling. That I feel like video games as a medium can only tell that. Like, put you in that immersion, give you that control to say, let me call them up and have them talk to me about philosophy. Right? That's super cool.
It really is.
And so, what is Snake like as a protagonist?
He's kind of fun in himself, too. He is always cracking jokes or disrespecting authority. He's a warrior poet. He recites poetry. He hits on girls. He is, like, you know, concerned with the mission, but he also doesn't want to die. He's very human in a lot of ways, and even though he's a super soldier. And I don't know. He's a lot of things.
Okay,
just
so
like the
just
games.
relatable guy.
Really?
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And so we're at the bottom of the hour here. Thanks for bringing this Metal Gear to me. I've learned a lot. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to leave them with on Metal Gear?
Oh my goodness. Never be game over, I guess.
Interesting.
There's a reference to the game for never be game over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind.
Exactly.
When I eventually get there. Listen, now I just kind of want to watch the cutscenes and see how wild this is.
You can. I encourage it.
Yeah.
That's how I started getting into the games, was I just watched the cutscenes.
One other thing I know about the game is, can you drop supply crates on
People?
dudes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When it's like, here's your objective, go do the objective, you can do it any way you want.
Okay.
You can drop supply crates on people. You can knock them all out and then walk through. You can kill them all. There's a myriad ways to deal with it. You can destroy supply depots so that people are starving and hungry and feed them bad food so that they run off to the toilet and like sneak past them that way.
Interesting.
There's just so many ways to deal with things.
It feels sandboxy as well.
Very sandboxy.
Okay, last question.
Yep,
last one. We'll wrap up here. On a scale of Hello Kitty Island Adventure to Dark Souls, how difficult do you think the game is?
Ooh, wow. I would say it's not that hard. I'm kind of surprised, but because it gives you so much room to play, and like so many ways to do things. Even the first level of Metal Gear Solid, there's like 3 ways to get into the first, like that area in there, inside the base. There's 3 ways to get in. It gives you so many avenues that the difficulty is kind of on you in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of trial and error, so there's built-in failure. So I would say on Hello Kitty Island to Dark Souls, it's like I don't want to say Driver San Francisco, but like maybe Europa. No, that's way too deep. No, maybe it's like a little bit tougher than Skyrim, but I would put it in like casual gamers will enjoy this. It's not that hard.
Not too difficult. What about like close to Dishonored?
Yeah, I would put it on that level.
Okay.
Dishonored.
Well, hey, good episode, my guy. Thanks for bringing in that discovery.
Yeah.
Excited to check it out. But that concludes episode 49 of Shared Discovery. If you have any questions, put them in the comment. Shoot us an email. Tell us your crazy Metal Gear theories.
Yeah,
We'd love to
please.
hear them. Email is shareddiscoveryshow@gmail.com. Thanks again to BCTV for allowing us to put on this production. And please come back next week, episode 50. We have our episode 50 episodes, our special. We're doing a game show. We're going to be playing games. We talk about games. We're going to be doing them. We're going to be having fun. But as we wrap up, thank you for joining us on episode 49. Make sure to have some fun, be kind to others, and play some games. And take us away, Ron.
For sure. Riches must be divided, but true wealth can be shared.
Bye.
Bye.